My mic was muted. What a great start. Welcome, everyone. How's it going? Monday the 17th. We've got a guest joining us today. We've got Mike Tomenson from New Tech Cleaning. We're going to be talking about all things health and safety, chemicals, PPE, equipment, all that jazz. I think he's a good person to have that conversation with. So lots of new people entering the industry at the minute, and so we might as well give them a head start with regards to like good practices and all that sort of stuff. How early? I know. I thought I'd just say hello to everyone just before we start, because I told Mike 7:30, so I don't want to keep him waiting. So I thought I'd go live a little bit early. I'm doing very well, Tracy. Thank you. Chris, welcome. Andy, welcome. Two Wheels, Fresh Rinse. What's going on? Wasn't sure what time you started. It's normally 7:30. It is. I am definitely early. Normally 7:30. What a week, man. We've tied off 3 pretty massive projects this week, and I'm so happy that today has gone well, because it's just put the ribbon on it. It's put the ribbon on it, and it's nice getting paid, first of all. But some of these projects have been things that have been in the works for like more than 2 months, and so it's just been like they've come to a close. Customers happy, ticked them off the list. Is repointing worth doing? I think so. I mean, Jakey enjoys it. He gets his headphones on. He just gets cracking. It's a very messy job. It's not as hard as roof cleaning, I wouldn't say, but it's very labour intensive. Incredibly rewarding though. Very, very rewarding. And once you've done a couple, it gets easier. It does get easier. It's all about technique with repointing, I think. You've got a few questions lined up. Nice. I think, hopefully, I spoke to Matt last night, I think. So what Matt's going to do is keep an eye on the chat. He's going to take down all the questions that people are asking. And if we go through them naturally in conversation, he's going to sort of check them off the list. But if those questions don't come up and they're good questions, he's going to compile them for us. And then we can go through those questions at the end. So if you've got any... The thing with this is, when I'm talking to Mike, it's going to be quite difficult for me to be following every single message in chat like I normally do when I haven't got a guest. So you'll have to bear with us. There will be Matt noting down all your questions. So if it hasn't been answered, we'll get to it at the end. We'll set aside about 20 minutes at the end to go through all you guys' questions. And if it has been answered, then it'll sort of be thrown out. And if we've already been through it and you missed it, maybe you'll have to start the stream again another day and just start from the beginning, maybe. I don't know. Jack, welcome. Dauntless. My mum sent me your TikTok and said you should try and build something like this. Have you seen him? I was like, yeah, I've been following him for years. That's pretty funny. That's funny. I met a guy today. We pulled up at Cobb House to do the resanding, and there was this exterior cleaning van in the drive, bearing in mind they're closed on Mondays and Tuesdays. I was like, what's this guy doing? And he said hello. I was like, you're right, mate, you waiting to get in? He went, yeah, I just come here for a hot sandwich. I said, they're closed on Mondays and Tuesdays. He went, I follow you on Facebook. I was like, no way. What are the odds of that? So I think he'd seen us here last week, and he's seen us there last week, and he just popped by. Based in Worcester, like he was based around the area. So I'll have a copy and paste message. Yeah, so Matt's gonna sort of create like a document, and then he'll just copy it all and send it me, and we can go through those questions. Do you get much of your work from social adverts? I don't tend to run social adverts as such. I suppose all of my social media content is advertising in a way, and yes, that is where pretty much 100% of my work comes from. I don't do any traditional advertising. So, and I enjoy making the content, so for me it's almost like free advertising, but I like making the videos and doing the pictures and stuff. So it's not free, obviously, it all takes time and stuff, but because I enjoy it, it feels like it's free, I suppose. Any questions will likely be answered naturally. I am making note of anything not yet answered to pass on to Jake for Q&A at the end. There you go. Wicked. I feel like a huge weight of the last couple of months has been lifted today. I honestly feel so much better after today. Jakey's absolutely smashed it. He's been working really hard. Rich has been driving over from Walsall to come and work with us. He's been working hard. And we've just tied it all off. I'm going to have a little holy to get going. Holy moly. Lemon honey. Lime and mint. Mango passion fruit. Vanilla, apple green tea. I think I'm going to go vanilla again. That was. I'm going to go lemon honey. And I think Soph might be bringing me up a coffee a bit later on as well, so that'd be nice. You still off the booze? I am, mate, yeah. I am. I'm off the booze, and I'm onto the holies. We don't do tea breaks anymore, we do holy breaks. Everything's an advert these days, isn't it? The elephant in the room is roof cleaning. Customers don't understand how much work goes into it. I had a £2,700 job reduced to 2k from a referral. No reply. It do be like that with roof cleaning. Someone said to me recently, if you land 1 out of 10 jobs in roof cleaning, you're doing about right. That's about right. Your friendly neighbourhood exterior cleaner has been a member for 10 months, and he says 6 weeks after buying a van and getting sold a dud, I finally bought another van today. Feels really good, and had it for a ride, so I'm buzzing. Hope all is well. Congrats on the new van, mate. Well done. It's always nice having a new vehicle, isn't it? Can I get some kind of insurance for pressure washing without being a business? Yeah, I'm sure. That's a good question. Can you get liability insurance without being a business? Favourite holy flavour? Coconut. Easily coconut. And I tried pear the other day and that was good, and I had the peach one the other day as well. I'm 5 weeks in now, just quoted a £4,300 single property. Feel a bit in over my head. Do you know what, mate? To be honest, the other day I passed a job onto H2O because I was like, it's too big for us. It's a massive mansion. It was actually my mortgage advisor. And she said, I've been meaning to get in touch. Can you come round and quote? And it's this huge mansion in a gated community. She wants all the brickwork on the whole house doing. She wants the roof cleaning. She wants the garage roof cleaning. She might want the drive cleaning. She wants all the walls around the property. And I'm like, you're probably going to want steam. And this would take me and Jakey probably over a week. So I'm going to put you into more capable hands. I'm just going to send you to H2O because they'd have it smashed out in a couple of days. Oh, Steve, well done, mate. Awesome. Yeah, that's the thing. Like, you don't necessarily need to be a business. You can just become a sole trader. Right, let's see if I can make this new meeting instant meeting. Another app is using your camera. Well, you didn't ask me which camera I wanted to use, did you? Video integrated camera. Okay. There we go, that's got it. Send that to Mike, and hopefully he can join me. Everyone's now a mod. Wait, what the hell? If anyone has any questions not related to the stream, do you mind typing to chip in to answer them. Oh, okay, that's a good idea. Got a 3-week roof clean coming up. 3 weeks for a roof clean, private school. Dreading it, looking forward to a payday. Yeah, at some point you just need to pull in some help, don't you? That is going to be a little bit awkward if that's like that. There we go. I think we've got him. Here he is. Hello, how's it going?
Good. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you perfectly, mate. How you doing?
Yeah, good. Tired. Busy day. Busy day.
You've been grafting?
Yeah, on the tools, I'm afraid, mate. Been using my new Marshall Air, giving it roof cleaning today.
Have you? Is that the first time you've used it?
The first time I've used my own, yeah.
We've all been wondering about the Marshall Air, so I wonder if we can get into that in a bit, actually, because that'd be quite cool to hear your thoughts on it.
Yeah, no bothers. Yeah, it was good. It was interesting to use it. Obviously, got to polish my technique, but it's a good wee bit of kit.
Yeah, I bet it's a learning curve. Scraping a roof normally, and then adding this bit of kit on that just changes the job entirely. I bet you need to sort of learn it all over again.
It's a slightly different technique. I mean, if you're using a wire brush, you're kind of twisting it to get the nose of the tile, the face of the tile. You're just doing the exact same with that. It's a bit lighter. The air kind of balances it a wee bit. It's a bit messier. It can blow shit everywhere if it's windy.
Yeah.
But it's more thorough and it's quicker. You know, it's a win-win.
Can you do that in the damp if the tiles are damp and the moss?
Well, I haven't done it yet, but I believe that is one of the main advantages, that if your moss is slightly damp, instead of smearing it over the tile, it does actually blow it out and shift it down the roof. So yeah, that's going to be another advantage to it.
My first, drop his volume by 10%. Oh, I think I've made you a bit loud. Hang on. Thanks, Matt. Can you see the chat, by the way, Mike?
I can't, no.
All right. I wonder if I can send you a link. Have you got like a phone or anything you could open it on next to you or something? Don't worry if not.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. I don't know if you want to, just while we're waiting, don't know if you want to introduce yourself. I know you've been on here before, and thanks for joining us, by the way. But
Thank you.
Some viewers might not have seen you before in the last one.
Okie dokie. So anyone that doesn't know me or hasn't been on any of the training courses, my name is Mike Tomenson. I've been in the game for, actually it's now come up, believe it or not, 40 years. Originally, I was a marine engineer, so I spent a lot of time at sea. Multidisciplinary engineer, so all my kit I fix myself, modify myself. Started out in my spare time on the boats. Bought a steam cleaner, bought a second-hand van, did it as a bit of a hobby, getting to know it. And then gradually over the years, went full-time. So back in 99, I think it was, 98, 99, I got involved a lot in the roof coating side. So I started importing, distributing coatings from Australia, it was at the time. Over the years, we also started bringing in flat roof coatings. So initially, water-based acrylics from Australia. Then we started bringing in silicones from America. Then we started the bully liner was one of mine as well. We did that from America. We are now this year ready to start manufacture in the UK on roof coatings again, rather than import them.
Are you doing that with Pure Seal?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. Just a quick one on roof coating. I had a customer that asked me the other day if we could, because I haven't pushed that in the past. I haven't even considered it as an option. But would you only do it after the roof has been scraped, after the roof has been pressure washed and biocided, or can you scrape it and biocide and then do a roof coating a couple of months later?
It needs to be clean, like proper clean.
Yeah.
So you really got to pressure wash it.
Okay.
I can imagine if you did brush scrape it, biocide it, brush scrape it again, you're probably going to get it very, very clean. But you need it to be, all the lichens need to be away, all the moss needs to be away, all the dust needs to be away. It's like anything, preparation's key when you're painting.
Yeah.
You want to get that good bond, the good penetration into the concrete. So it's back to pressure washing, I'm afraid.
Yeah. So I thought you'd finished the roof coating side of things, and I just thought you were sort of focusing on exterior cleaning.
Well, I stopped because during COVID, we couldn't get any freight. All the container ships were laid up. At that time, they scrapped a lot of the tonnage. So a lot of the smaller vessels were scrapped, which meant that when things picked up again, there was a shortage of availability. So freight prices went up. They were like triple what they were before. And availability was negligent. I couldn't get anything over from Australia. So I just shelved it. But over the years, chatting to Chris, and now with his new machines and his new branch, etc., we've got a new deal in place with a different Australian company, whereby we're going to manufacture under license here. There's a few products in the pipeline, but the roof coatings is just about ready to sign on the dotted line, and hopefully we'll get them manufactured ready for summer.
That'd be cool. Is that airless sprayer stuff, or is that?
Yes, yeah, airless, yeah. So Graco are the most famous make, Graco, Wagner, Q-Tech, etc. It's quite a bit of an investment, but again, like anything, you buy it and you look after it, and you're going to get a good number of miles out of it.
When they say airless sprayer, I have no idea what that actually means. Is it just like an electric pump? Like
the idea of airless as opposed to air assisted. So essentially, an airless sprayer works the same as a pressure washer pump, except it's a single piston. So it sucks up the liquid and compresses the liquid. If you look at things like automotive spray, and as people are maybe more familiar with the kind of spray gun with a little pot underneath it.
Yeah.
That's like what you call HVLP, high volume, low pressure. So the air blows through and assists the spraying. As I say, that's more for things like car spray, and you can use them on fences, but airless spraying, you can spray anything from, you can do internal walls, right up to the bigger machines can spray bitumen and silicone. Silicone is like 98% solid. It doesn't get any thicker, but an airless spray machine can spray it.
I'm looking for something to do the tarmac restorations. I'd like a sprayer for that, because I feel like a roller's quite inconsistent when it comes to leaving lines on the drive.
Yeah, rollers generally do. I mean, that's the thing with a roller, is when you load it up, you've got a lot of liquid. By the time you're finished with it, you've got very little.
Yeah.
Easy. If you push it too hard, you get tram lines at the side. If you keep on pushing it too far, it'll suck the paint back up again. So getting a consistent finish is difficult with a roller.
Yeah.
Is it solvent or water-based tarmac seal you're using?
Water-based at the minute, but it's the only really one that I've settled on. I've tried the thinner ones, you know, the Thompsons, the Screwfix ones and stuff. But I've settled on a thicker water-based one, and I'm not sure I can get it through like a chapping sprayer.
Water-based ones, I don't know. I mean, the thing is, with anything water-based versus solvent-based in that type of sealer market, typically the higher quality comes in the solvent-based ones. So you get more durability. And obviously with me teaching the Pure Seal tarmac sealing, we know that the chapping sprayers are good for it.
Okay.
So if you randomize your movement as well, so you're not just, you would go two directions. So your first coat, you'd go one way, your second coat, you'd go the other. But you also randomize your spray tip a little bit. You move it around randomly.
Yeah.
So you don't get any kind of lines. That's one thing. Is with an airless spray, you're going to get a flat fan, and you have to be rigid in your movement. You've got to be very precise in the lines that you take. Whereas with the chapping sprayers, it's a round spray. So you'd randomize it around, and you just move it about a bit, and you just get a more even finish.
Okay.
So solvent-based, water-based has got its plus point, but really for durability, for quality, you want to be using the solvent-based, and the chapping sprayers are typically good for it.
Okay. I've just had an email from someone who supplies like a high-quality tarmac sealer, and they've sent me a sample, but they've sent it to the wrong house. So hopefully I'll get that this week and I can have a play with it.
Yeah.
How did you get involved with Pure Seal?
I met Chris at a show. I was, let me think, was it? I can't remember the year exactly, but I was still doing the bully liner, which was the automotive coating. It's like a spray-on truck liner. I launched it in the UK into the window cleaning market, because I know that a lot of people in the window cleaning market are keen DIYers.
Mm-hmm.
It's applications in other areas, you know, all sorts of boating, etc. But I launched it there on the Facebook groups, and then I took it to the cleaning show, which is where I met Chris. And that was the early days for him. I think that was his first show that he'd done. I think I'd done the one before.
Is that the Expo or the one in London?
Yeah, the Expo, yeah. The Expo. and just got to meet him there. Just got talking, got a hold of some of his chemicals, and essentially over the years, I've way back. Back in 1989 or whatever it was when I first started, you used to have to go and knock on people's doors. You'd go to chemical distributors, you'd go to your local shop, and you'd say, "What do you have for this type of surface? What do you know?" And you could. I used to use a company called Selden. They're quite good, and you'd phone up their technical department, speak to their chemists, and they would give you solutions for things that you needed to do. I had water staining on ceramic tiles, clay tiles a long time ago, and they were, well, you need a phosphoric acid based product, and here it is. So my knowledge came the hard way. It was hard
asking questions.
Yeah, go and knock the doors, get the chemicals, get the samples, try different things. But I had also experience in manufacturing biocides, because I've my fingers in loads of pies over the years, but I had a license from a company in New Zealand to manufacture biocide in the UK. So I had experience of that. And I also, when I first started, I used to build car washes for a friend of mine because I was an engineer.
God, you've done everything. What the hell?
See, when you're young, you've got that much experience. See, when you're older, you've done all sorts of shit. It's an age thing, mate. That's all it is. It's a numbers game. The more years you're around, the more shit you've done. So that's essentially it.
I wouldn't even know where to begin with trying to get licenses to start manufacturing. But thank you so much. I've just got
it's a whole lot harder. I think it's a whole lot harder to get a product to market now than it would have been in the past. That's the thing, is that people don't tend to understand. I see a lot of bitching on the groups about the cost of materials from a supplier, but they have no concept of what it actually costs to put a product to market.
Mm-hmm.
So to register a biocide, I can go now and go and buy back 50 from someone who's drop shipping it. It's labeled up as a disinfectant. It's not what you call label compliant. It's the exact same chemical as what Pure Seal sell, but I know that to go and register that as a biocide with the HSE will cost about £60,000.
Wow. Can you explain label compliant? Because I hear that term a lot and I don't really know what it means, if I'm honest.
Okay. So rewind a bit to the HSE part of it. So they charge you to register the product. You have to submit all your paperwork for what it's going to be used for, etc. They look over it and they charge you the fee to register it, but they also charge you a fee for every single drop you sell. So they're like the mafia in that respect. So every single product that's on the HSE database, every drop you sell, they take a percentage of that sale to maintain the database. Mm-hmm. So that's why these products cost more. It's because it costs money to market them legally.
Yeah.
So when I say legally and label compliance, the simplest way to look at label compliance is doing what it says on the tin. Okay, so if you look at the label, if you go and buy dairy hypo, it will say in that label for use in sanitizing, disinfecting, dairy equipment, and that's it.
Yeah.
So essentially, if you go and use that then to clean a patio, it's not label compliant. It's not legal to use it for that purpose.
So it's not legal. So label compliant not only covers the supplier of the product, but it's also telling the consumer that it has a very specific intended purpose, and if you're not using it for that purpose, you're actually using it illegally.
Yes, and you'll also find that you're breaching your insurance. So
I went into the farm shop recently, the other day actually, and the old boy behind the counter, he said, "Oh, we've been having some issues with hypo recently," and I said, "Oh, what's going on?" And he said, all these blokes illegally cleaning their driveways and stuff, and I thought, illegally, that's a
it is, that's it. It's Health and Safety at Work Act. The product has to be label compliant. It's got to be used for the purpose that's stated on, because you'll find that the registration of the product, that's one thing, is that if you're going to be using a product, you'll need cost sheets, data sheets. Now, this is one thing that we teach, is that you've got to have them where your chemical is stored. You've got to have them when you're transporting it, and you've got to have them on site. So you can't just drop a man on a site with a bottle of chemical and leave him to it. You've got to make sure that he has first aid kit, eye wash kit, cost sheets, MSDS. So your basic cost sheet looks something like that. So you've got your basic symbols.
Before we move on to that, because that was one of my questions. So regardless, say Pure Seal sell hypo,
Yeah.
and the farm shop sells hypo.
Yeah.
Am I right in saying they're almost identical products without the
Chemi-
surfactant and stuff?
Well, that's one thing, is that if you buy Pure Seal raw hypo and farm shop raw hypo, they are essentially the same product. When you talk about the nuclear range, nuclear fallout, nuclear gel, they have surfactants, scent masks, and boosters in them, which aid the performance. But it's the same as the Back 50. You can go right now on eBay and go and buy a bottle of Back 50, but it'll be labeled up as a sanitizer. One thing as well is that if you are selling proper registered products, you also have to have what's known as shop insurance. So if ever there's a problem down the line with the product or a defect or something happens, there's insurance there in place for that. So that's also a legal requirement. And the price difference is pennies. I did a quick fag packet calculation not long ago. So if I go and buy Back 50 from a drop shipper compared to proper registered Back 50 from Pure Seal, for a roof clean, it works out at 0.5 pence per square meter price difference. So on a 60 square meter roof, you're talking 30 pence in difference in doing it right or doing it cheap.
Is that including delivery?
No, that was just I didn't compare delivery because it would vary on what you're buying, where you're buying it from. But
Yeah,
that was
I suppose.
that was just the raw list chemical price from someone in Manchester and from Pure Seal, and literally it was 0.5 penny a square meter. I mean, the thing is that hypo might differ more because of your dilution ratios. So when you're diluting 3-to-1 or 4-to-1, a price difference there would probably be greater per square meter than, for example, where you're diluting at 25 or 30-to-1, depending on the actual cost. But
I suppose with the nuclear and the Nuclear Fusion Pro, with the surfactants and the scent masks and the wetting agents and all that sort of stuff, it's going to stay on the surface a little bit longer than like if you mix it. Am I right in saying that blended hypo with all the surfactants and stuff in it, is that a better performing product than if you were to put Surf Boost into farm shop hypo, for example? Because it's not blended, it's not like.
But the actual the blending isn't really an issue. They mix well. That's the thing, is that surfactants can be complex. As different surfactants perform different things. They do wetting. Some of them stop the chemical from penetrating. So, for example, if you don't want hypo to penetrate a particular kind of stone, like sandstone, some surfactants can keep it on the surface. One of the key things with surfactants that people don't understand is that it stops it from evaporating.
Yeah.
And one thing with hypo, even at low temperatures, even when you're working down at 3, 4, 5 degrees, is it can evaporate very rapidly.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as it dries, it stops working. If you put surfactant in there, it doesn't evaporate so quickly. It gives you a much longer dwell time, which gives you a much longer working time. And at lower temperatures, your dwell times increase significantly anyway. So what might take 10 minutes to have an effect in the summer could take 30, 40 minutes in the winter.
Yeah, especially something like sandstone as well. It's either going to evaporate, or because sandstone's so porous, it's going to just absorb in and it's going to disappear. Whereas a surfactant will keep it exactly where it needs to be.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes depending on the job, you can pre-wet the surface. Now that's essential with things like acids, but pre-wetting can have a negative effect because sometimes you want it to penetrate. So there's so many different factors. There's so many environmental considerations to take into account. One of the things we teach is that you can go into a street one day, do a house with one method, go the following day and completely change what you're doing because the environmental conditions, whether it's overcast, whether it's sunny, whether it's windy, whether you've got plants, whether you've got pets, you've got to think on your feet. You've got to be dynamic with your risk assessments and things. You've got to be able to say, right, okay, well, the weather's changed. We're going to need to change our approach to this. We're going to do that today.
Yeah.
But that only comes from knowing what all the different chemicals do, how they work, and what all the different surfaces are. And it's not difficult. It's just time consuming to get to know all these different things.
Yeah. I worry sometimes if I'm pre-wetting the surface that I'm pre-diluting the chemical too much when I'm putting it down. So
yes, that can happen.
Depends on what surface it is, I suppose.
Yeah, and the thing there is if it's something like a patio, for example, you can get a leaf blower and blow the excess water off, so you've got minimum amount of water there.
Yeah.
Same if you want to put biocide, for example, on a gable wall, and it's just chucked it down with rain and the wall's dripping wet. If you hit that with just even a mist of biocide or surfactant, any kind of soap, it'll break the surface tension and all that water runs off the wall. Again, technique-wise, if you've got a wet wall or a wet roof, you can apply biocide top down rather than bottom up.
I want to get to that because you put something on Facebook the other day where you were applying biocide to a roof and you barely had anything dripping down into the gutter, and I want to know more about that in a bit, if that's all right.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
Before we get into it, we've already sort of got into it, but the reason I thought it was a good idea to do this is because this is the sort of time of year where there's going to be loads of new people coming into the industry. They've seen all the videos on Facebook and on YouTube and whatever, and they're slinging chemicals around and not necessarily doing things the correct way. And you've had issues with some of the things that I've done in the past, and that's great because it means I can learn from you and stuff. So I think you're the guy to sort of learn from when it comes to things like health and safety and best practices, PPE, all that sort of stuff. So can we, firstly, what sort of services do you offer when it comes to exterior cleaning? Is it pretty much all of them, or is it?
Yeah, I mean, myself, as I was saying, I've got a small business now. I do the consultancy work. I do the training for Pure Seal. This year we're doing one course a month. Last year we did 2 a month. It's just supply and demand. We've gone through 2 years of rattling people through as many as we could, so the demand isn't quite there. We've got module 3, the roof cleaning one coming up as well. We'll slot in there. But I'm out on the tools 2 or 3 days a week. I've got one guy full time.
I was going to say, I was looking through your Facebook and I saw you don't post pictures of yourself, do you? I was trying to find
there's only me taking pictures.
I was trying to find like a thumbnail that I could use, and I couldn't find a picture of you like on the tools. Right. I could see a picture of another guy doing the gutter vacuuming and all that sort of stuff, but I couldn't find one of you. So you got one employee?
Yeah, one employee. We've got 2 vans. So we're out on the tools together for larger jobs and commercial jobs. And when we do a roof clean, we're out together. But most of the time he's out on the tools and I'm in the office, or I'm out pricing, or I'm down the builders merchants. And I've had bigger squads, I've had more teams, but this kind of suits me just now with all the other things that I'm doing, all the other things that I'm into.
Do you do window cleaning?
No. See, in Scotland, you've got to have a license.
Really?
Yes. And you've got to have a license for every single council that you work in. Now, I work in about 15, 20 different council areas. I wouldn't want a regular window cleaning round because a lot of my work is reactive. So I do commercial work. Tomorrow, Friday, I've got a TSB bank in Edinburgh. It's either going to be after 5:30 on Friday night or first thing Saturday morning. It's the head office. I do work for Home and Bargains, Specsavers, places like that. And I've got 2 shopping centres I look after. So if I get a phone call for graffiti, we go. The commercial clients always come first. The domestic side, we just kind of put them all in the queue. And we notified them the night before or 2 days before because the weather changes so much.
God, that's interesting. So, because I think last time I spoke to you, I got the impression that you mainly focused on commercial stuff, which
we do. No, we do. Well, commercial is the biggest turnover part of the work, but it comes and goes. We do a lot of, like last year we did a big factory, a couple of big factories. We did three big industrial jobs. We did a big block of flats. We did 2 town squares for the council. Since then, I've actually done training. We developed our own bespoke training for graffiti removal for a council. We delivered that as well. So we split it between the 2, and the domestic work fills all the gaps when we're not doing commercial work.
So that's really interesting. So your customers are quite happy for you you say they're 10th on the list. And the night, you don't give them a date. You just say it's going to be roughly in the next month or 2.
Yeah.
And then you say, the night before, you drop them a message and say, we're going to be around tomorrow to do the driveway.
I try and do a bit more notice than the night before. But the thing is, especially living in the west of Scotland, the weather forecast changes by the hour.
Yeah.
I've got to be dynamic in what I'm doing because, if next week, if say Monday, Tuesday is going to be wet, I'll line up driveway cleaning. So we'll go and we'll set up 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 driveways to wash, knowing that a day or 2 later when it's dry, we can go back and sand it. So we're literally dynamic on a daily basis on what the weather's doing, especially this time of year.
Have your customers ever had an issue with that sort of scheduling?
No, I mean we can't be anything other than vague because of the weather. You know, we say like now it's relatively quiet, relatively in that it's 2 weeks. If someone contacts me now, so I'll go out and I'll do the site visit, I'll talk to them, and they say, "What's your schedule like?" I'll say, "Well, it's approximately 2 to 3 weeks, depending on the weather." And I've never had an issue with that.
God, I want to do that. That sounds brilliant because
I can't keep a diary. I can't keep a diary, one, because of the weather, and two, because of the commercial pressures. So I literally had a phone call today from a client I've worked for 30 years now. And they said to me, you know, TSB Bank head office, Edinburgh, internal clean, carpet clean, which I don't really do. Desks, blah, blah. Can you do it? When are you thinking? Is that Saturday? Like, okay. You know, I've got to be that dynamic.
That's
say,
crazy.
Okay. And the thing is that'll pay well. You know, that's going to be a kick in the arse off a 4-figure job for a back shift or a Saturday morning shift.
Yeah.
But they know fine well these clients. I've had them for 30 years because they know if they're in the shit, they phone me and I go. You know, last year or the year before, they phoned me at 5 o'clock in the afternoon saying I've got it was Virgin Money, so Clydesdale Yorkshire Bank job
That's
in
who
Preston.
I'm with for my business account.
There you go. They said we've got a job in Preston, needing done. And that when? I said, well, tomorrow morning before they open at 9 o'clock. I'm like, right, okay, I'll get my dinner and I'll head down there. So I literally had my dinner, booked my hotel. I was down there for 9 o'clock, 9:30, met the site manager, had a look at what I needed to do, got up at 5:30 the following morning, done the job. By 9 o'clock, I was halfway home again. So
that's a much more attractive idea for scheduling because I think Sid Partridge does something similar with his roofs. He just basically says you're sort of third on the list for the roof cleaning because he has so many booking in. It's hard to when a roof clean can take sometimes 3 days and you got bad weather and then you have to reschedule. I'd love to be able to work like that.
The thing is, if you schedule all of your work and one thing goes wrong, a machine breaks down, someone goes sick, the weather's shit, you've then got to notify every single client that it's changed
and shift everything forward.
Yeah, and then if it changes again, people get a bit pissed off with being messed around. But if you're vague, but not too vague, 2-3 weeks, I've never found people that aren't happy with that.
It
may be that you can't get to them fast enough, and they say, "I'll go somewhere else." That's fine. It's not a customer I've lost. You know, that gap will be filled. Someone else gets pulled forward. But literally, you know, sometimes an hourly, 2-hourly basis. Like this morning, it wasn't forecast for rain, but I woke up this morning and it was raining.
Yeah. I think the last couple of weeks have been incredibly stressful because I've had 3 relatively big projects that I'm trying to tie off so that I can get around to other stuff. And it's like if one thing goes wrong, it delays everything, and it's so stressful.
Yeah.
And I think I might have to look at that after summer maybe and change the way I'm doing things. That's cool.
I don't keep a diary. I just keep a list of jobs.
A list, yeah. I like that idea. And then if someone comes in later and you say, well, I'm over that way tomorrow afternoon, so I could get that one in now, and you can like
exactly. Yeah, that's where being dynamic helps, because I've just had two confirmations of jobs today, and I know for one of them I've already got a job in that street next week. Yeah. So he's gonna get pulled up the queue, and he doesn't even know about it.
Yeah.
He's gonna get pulled up the queue because we're in his street. You know. So, and that's the same as well. If someone phones me up, a regular client, for example, I'm moving house, I need it done by such and such a date. So that, okay, no problem. Yeah, I'll do that. You know,
that's a great idea. Right, PPE.
Yes.
Can you tell us, if you can be specific? Great. Can you tell us what sort of PPE you keep in the van at all times and what you're wearing sort of on a daily basis?
Well, the key thing is people should be guided on what PPE they're using by the data sheets. So we're talking about the cost sheets, and we're talking about the MSDS sheets.
The SDS, yeah.
And they have to have these. Again, I mentioned earlier about first aid kits, eye wash. You've got to have these where the chemicals are stored. You've got to have them when you're transporting them, and you've got to have them on site.
And
So
how do you get access to the data to the SDS sheets?
your manufacturer or distributor should have them for you.
Oh shit! Hang on. Hang on. Don't know what just happened. Don't know what just happened, mate. Sorry.
That's right, you're back. So I'm saying you need to be guided by the manufacturer who will supply them to you. So for Pure Seal, we've got an approved contractors page with a file section, and Facebook where you can just pick any product. Also, when you order a product, you should receive an email with them, and essentially you've got sheets like this which explains what kind of PPE you should be wearing.
Okay.
So
is it specific? Does it go into specifics, or is it more like a general?
Yeah, because there's different types of PPE for different types of product. So for acids, for example, you might use different PPE to alkalize. So it'll have on it what type of plastic it needs to be, sort of say nitrile gloves, for example.
Mm-hmm.
And when it comes to respirators, typically it'll be ABEC P3 filters. So your average respirator or dust mask doesn't work.
Yeah.
You've got to have the specific filter that takes out the organic vapors. And that's one thing people don't understand is it's not just the droplets that cause harm, it's the vapors. And that can be especially bad with things that are volatile. So anything solvent-based, we're talking here about solvent-based and water-based sealers. So xylene-based sealers can be exceptionally bad. So and a lot of the industry knows about the death of Darren last year.
Yeah.
It's a very, very tragic accident, very avoidable. And just literally by thinking he could cut corners, doing the job quickly and not wearing his respirator, he managed to get xylene toxicity, which gave him a heart attack. So the PP is there, and it's not expensive to purchase. It's not difficult to wear. Cutting corners, you'll regret it. Even like 2 days ago, someone put up a picture of the hand with a chemical burn on it, and they were asking what moisturizer they should use.
Yeah,
now
I saw
again,
that.
go back to your data sheets. I'm looking here. This one here is for smelly gel. Okay, so it says here, and this is one of the key things. If in eyes, rinse cautiously with water for several minutes. Remove contact lenses if present and easy to do so. Continue rinsing. Immediately call a poison center, doctor, physician, first aider. So it's all well and good having your eye wash to hand. And this is one thing I'll stress to people now is that a little sports bottle, even like the one you're drinking out of now, a smaller version of that, in your pocket, you can squirt straight into your eyes, or the small sachets that you get of eye wash. It's no good having it if you're up a scaffold, for example. It's no good having your eye wash station down on the ground where your dosatron is, because you're not going to be able to see to get down the ladder or down the scaffold to see it.
A little fruit shoot bottle would be good.
Exactly, that's it. Yeah, something like that. And the tap water doesn't matter. You need to have it to hand. It's got to be on your person, in your pocket. But that's part and parcel of being prepared. Is I like to, when I set up, fill a bucket full of water next to my dosatron. If I've got a bucket full of water, I can put my hands in it. I can tip it over my head. I can splash my face with it. It's there and ready, and I don't need to rely. I can't expect to be able to go down there, turn the hose on and get water because someone might have turned it off or disconnected it.
Yeah.
I want a bucket of water, which I'll use to pump through when I'm finished, but I want that before I start even taking the caps off anything. And that's the key thing as well, is that your PPE goes on before you even take the cap off the drum.
That's a good idea, a bucket of water, because you're going to rinse it through anyway to clean out your equipment. So why not just have it there from the beginning?
Yeah.
I think masks can be a bit confusing because occasionally you'll see someone wearing a mask and then you'll search for a mask online and you'll see the exact mask and you'll order it and realise it's arrived with the wrong filters. Or you don't even know that it's got the wrong filters. You just assume that's the correct mask.
Well, that's it. This is where you go back to your cost sheets and your data sheets, because it will tell you exactly what filter to use. And for what we're dealing with,
1P3 is the one you're after. For.
It is, because even for, like, we deal with...
Oh my God. I haven't used Google Meet before.
Again.
Sorry, mate. I've not used Google Meet before, and this is slightly... Right. Every time I change tabs, it's going to be annoying. Sorry.
Yeah. So your ABEC P3, you're going to use for your hypo, for your xylene solvent-based products, for your acid-based products. The filters in there, they're like activated charcoal. It filters out all the harmful vapors. That's ABEC P3 is the typical one. It's quite a thick filter. A lot of folks use the JSP press to fit masks, and it's got the multicolored bands on the side. But any decent chemical supplier should also have the PPE that you're required to wear. They can ship at the same time.
So a lot of people ask me about those masks and the ABEC 1 P3 masks. Screwfix sell them, but they don't come with the right filters. So I always direct people to the Pure Seal website, because they're cheaper and they come with the right filters.
Well, the one people go for is the JSP brand is the most popular, but it's the P3 is the type of filter. So it's the JSP push to fit mask with the P3 filter.
So P3 is dust essentially, isn't it?
No, it's organic vapors.
Oh, I thought P3 was dust. Sorry.
No, there's a very good tool on the JSP website. If you go to the JSP website itself, you've got a very good chart there with all the different types of things that you can encounter and where they recommend which filter it is. But it's I think it's ABEC 1 P3 or something is the specification. But again, always refer to your MSDS sheets. That'll tell you exactly what you need to wear. That'll tell you exactly what kind of coveralls, chemical-proof coveralls. They'll also come with information on the package with regards to splash resistance, chemical resistance, etc. So again, the like the big yellow noddy suits, the Tyvek, Tyvek. So the Tyvek suits are pretty good. They're quite tear resistant. The Tyvek suits, ABEC P1, P3 filters, whatever suits with regards chemical splashes, visors, the good visors keep it away from everything.
So when are you wearing these Tyvek suits?
All the time that you're using the chemical.
Is it mainly certain chemicals? Is it mainly like biocides and acids, or are you using that when you're just putting hypo down as well?
Well, this is the non-grey area where people think this is safe, that isn't safe. I mean, there was a chat the other day with regards that guy's really badly burned hand, and two people chipped in and said, "This is why I don't wear gloves, because if you get a hole in it, you don't know." I know, and I bit my tongue. I get what they're saying. I get why people do what they do, and it's down to every individual to ensure their own safety. But in theory, you should be wearing your chemical-proof suit for just about everything that we're using.
So I'd be pulling up these images now because I've got links to all of these Facebook posts, because there's been quite a few like spillages and people got leg burns and all sorts over the last couple of weeks. I'd be pulling them up on YouTube so that you guys could see, but I think YouTube would probably ban this video because they don't like people showing that sort of stuff, so it's probably best not to. But I'm sure if you're part of any of the Facebook groups, you might have seen it.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, is it's a recurring theme as well. One thing we find, and I've not seen any actual evidence, but anecdotally, talking to people, the nastiest burns seem to be coming from the solvent-based DDAC. Now, for those that don't know, BAC and DDAC are sister chemicals. They do the same thing. They're both biocides. They're both quaternary ammonium compounds. They're both in the same classification with regard to PPE, etc. But the people that we see having burns are the ones that use the solvent-based DDAC, the 50% DDAC. Now, it seems to be the combination of the solvent and the biocide together creates a much worse reaction. And that's where the worst skin burns we're seeing is coming from people using DDAC, not BAC.
Okay.
But in theory, I mean, everyone's entitled to cut corners where they see fit and what they see is right and things. But, dilute hypo compared to neat hypo isn't anywhere near as corrosive, but still doesn't mean that it's not bad for you. Even things like your detergents on your skin will create things like dermatitis. They'll take all the fats out your skin and wreck your skin that way. So the chemicals that we're using, this is one of the key things as well, is that we're using industrial grade chemicals. It says on the labels for professional use only, and that leads on to you have to have, if it says professional user only, you have to have information, instruction, and training in the use of that chemical in the eyes of the health and safety executive to be operating legally.
Okay, so this is where the Pure Seal courses come in. So you guys, you're quite a big part of the. Do you do all the modules, or is it only certain modules that you're part of?
It's myself and Chris do all of them.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
And
so
so
there's other ways to get the accreditation you need. I mean, one thing that Chris created was the Biocide training website, which is deliberately non-branded. It's not specific to any particular product. It means that people who use other companies' biocides or standalone companies or people in industry can use that as an accreditation to use professional use only biocides. And it's a lot cheaper. It's like 150 quid or something to do the course. I think it's 14 or 15 different sections that you can do on an ad hoc basis. So you can come and do one section one night, do two sections another night, and then do the test at the end. So you can get that qualification that's legally required to be a professional user just by doing it online.
Would you say, because I remember learning, I did module 1, that's the only one that I've done. I remember learning quite a lot about biocide in module 1. Would you say if people have done the courses, do they need to do the biocide course as well?
No, not at all, because that's the part, that's one of the key things with the training is it does give you that information, instruction, and training to use professional user-only products.
Okay. And
module 2 is a bit more in depth in that module 2 is now NEBOSH endorsed, so we have to demonstrate how to correctly pour chemicals, etc., to get that signed off. But there's not really much more to it. But the online biocide training takes it to a whole other level. It's 10 times more in depth on biocides than the actual module 1 and 2 is specifically geared towards biocide. You get a much greater understanding and the difference between hypo and quat compounds, for example, and how they work and things. So as a standalone course and qualification, it's quite a good one.
Okay. And can you just briefly go over what you could expect from the different modules? Because I've only done module 1, and as far as I was aware, that's basically all ground surfaces, preparing, chemically treating, cleaning, and sealing virtually all ground surfaces, isn't it?
So module 1 is the identification, cleaning, and sealing of paving. So you've got your standard monoblock, you've got your natural stone. So we have the stone samples we pass around, the limestone, sandstone, porcelain. We do tarmac, we do pattern and printed concrete, it's quite a big part of it. So module 1 is all of that. Module 2 is buildings and structures. So we go into a bit more in depth on stone cleaning. So where we do sandstone, etc., in module 1, it's more in depth on module 2, where we're talking about different acids. We start talking about more about hydrochloric, phosphoric, hydrofluoric. Both of the modules have everyday stain removal, which is where we talk about detergents, rust, soot, carbon, grease, things like that. So they're both standalone courses that cross over a bit. They both have the same introduction with regards to health and safety. So as you know, we start with COSH, control of substances hazardous to health, safe working practices, risk assessments, method statements. So there's a good
2-day course, isn't it?
Yeah.
And the first, I'm sure I remember the first day was mainly like health and safety theory.
Yeah, the morning is the same for both the courses. So it is, as I just said, you've got the COSH, risk assessments, method statements, etc. And then you move into the nuts and bolts of the other products, because that's the thing as well, that people don't understand legally nowadays. You have to do a risk assessment and method statement for every single job you do.
Can you class a visual risk assessment as a risk assessment?
You can go to a job with all your knowledge, all your experience, do it as you've always done it, all your safety precautions in place. But then if there's an accident and the HSC or the police or someone investigates, if you haven't got a written record that you've assessed those risks and put in place control measures, you're in the shit. So it's all well and good operating safely, being qualified, but if you don't have a written record of that, you've got no proof that you have actually assessed them risks.
And what about if you have a if you create a generic risk assessment document for all, not all jobs, but all if I'm doing a tarmac restoration or whatever, or if I'm doing some acid washing on
Yeah.
a new build, if I
Yeah.
have risk assessments in place for each type of job, not necessarily for that specific property, but for each type of work that I'm doing, and I carry that with me, does that suffice?
No, because you can have a template that you use, but you will have to have on that template for that job the date and the location. Because if you haven't assessed the location for the job that's going to be done, you haven't assessed the risks properly. So, although it may be that you perform the same task on a number of different locations at a number of different times, you can't have a generic risk assessment for a particular job. It has to be site specific to that time and that date. And if something changes significantly, like the weather, etc., then you have to be able to stop the job, change the risk assessment or method statement, and move on from there.
Okay.
You can do it as a Word document. A Word document's a good one. So you can knock it up as a Word document. Same with these. You've got to have your cost sheet has to be site specific as well. So that cost sheet there at the bottom, you'll see there it's got the date and the location and the time and things. There's nothing wrong with filling that in pencil and taking it to the next job, but it's got to be there on the job. You can't go off in the van and take that with you. That's there in case there's an emergency. So your risk assessment method statement, cost sheets have all got to be site and date specific.
So if you're totally honest, do you think it's reasonably practical if someone has got 5 gutter jobs tomorrow for them to be doing all that specific paperwork for each individual job for a gutter clear? You know what I'm saying? Because this is my issue I have with the whole health and safety thing is that the amount of effort that you'd have to do to be perfectly by the book on every single job just doesn't seem reasonably practical to me. And I feel like you could probably speak to 99.9% of people in the industry, and every single one of them are going to be falling short on one area or another. Do you know what I mean?
I know exactly what you're saying, and there's a bit of a sliding scale in how people view it. One thing's important though, if anybody wants to crack on in business and move on and grow the business, you're going to be looking at commercial work. Commercial work, it's a
Different
given.
ball game, yeah.
20 shopping center I work at, I got a phone call from them back in 1999 asking if I did graffiti removal, and I said yes. And then the manager said to me, "Great, come out and give me a quote. If you can't provide me with your insurance details and provide me a risk assessment and a method statement, don't bother coming out." And that was 7 years ago. I still work for them now. She's moved on to another shopping center. I look after both of them still to this day. So for me, I use HS Direct, which is a template, online template. All I do is I go in, I tick all the boxes for what I need, where I am, change the date and the time. And again, I've got templates for different jobs, different areas. So for example, Clydesdale banks, a lot of them are the same. All I'll do is I'll go in, and on paper, it's a different date and a different location, but I do have to go through and tick all the boxes for what's happening, excluding the public, etc. So there is a way of doing it whereby you are constantly legally compliant in every single aspect of what you do, or the other end of the spectrum is where you do nothing. Okay, now what I try and get across to people is that by going through the motions of doing all these different things that you need to do, by being compliant, by buying the right chemical, using the PPE, doing your RAMs, the more effort you make, the less chance of having an accident. If you have an accident, the less chance it's going to be severe. Okay, if you do have an accident and the police or the HSE get involved, there's less chance there's going to be enforcement action. If there is enforcement action, there's less chance of it being a prosecution.
Yep.
If there is a prosecution, you end up in court, less chance of being found guilty. If you are found guilty, less chance of being sent to jail. So it's like anything. It's like insurance. It's a numbers game. It's a risk game. It's like crossing the road. You look left, you look right. How far away is the car? Can I chance it? Can I not? If there's a 99% chance of crossing the road safely, you're not going to do it. Okay, because there's a 1% chance you're going to get hit. it's that you've constantly got to assess what you think is safe and what you think isn't. But bear in mind that potential penalties can be severe, whether it's injury, criminal, insurance. One thing people forget as well is that, and I'm not going to dwell on it, but if you have an accident at work and you've got any kind of life insurance policy in place and you haven't done everything by the book, if you haven't got that risk assessment and method statement, if you haven't got them cost sheets, if you haven't done it all by the book, your life insurance or your health insurance isn't going to pay out. And that's come into focus in the last 12 months because there was a big fight over a life insurance payout and the paperwork that was involved. So there's so many different things there. It's not difficult to be compliant. It's not expensive to buy the right kit. It's not expensive to wear PPE. Everybody will make their own judgment and make their own risk assessment in their own head, whether they think it's safe, never had a problem, never been burnt before. But as you've seen yourself, look at how many people are putting up pictures of nasty skin damage.
Yeah.
Some of that could be life-changing.
It all seems to be in the last month. I think the season's kicking off and everyone's jumping in, and there seems to be a lot of issues over the last month or so that everyone's having spillages and getting burnt and getting hypo in their eye and all sorts.
Yeah, that's the thing, is people get complacent, and again, people go and watch videos, and there's one very, very, very popular YouTuber that does a lot of paving cleaning and uses an X-Jet for his hypo and never wears any kind of PPE whatsoever. Now, that's his judgment, that's his risk assessment, that he thinks he's safe doing that. This is the same guy that doesn't have public liability insurance because he thinks it's a scam, it's a con, no point in having it. Legally, you don't need it unless you're doing commercial work where they'll not let you on site unless you've got it. But that's an assessment that he's made, that one, he doesn't need the PPE, and two, he doesn't need any insurance. You might get lucky, never have a problem, never have an accident, never have a claim. You might not get lucky.
I didn't know you didn't legally need liability insurance. This is the other thing that is an issue for me, is when a supplier is telling you legally you need to do the biocide training course, for example, to be compliant. And it's always a conflict of interest because you're not sure whether that's part of a sales pitch or whether, because I also looked on I was looking about IPAF licenses and stuff.
Yeah.
And I was doing some intense Googling and trying to figure out legally, do I need an IPAF to work on a residential property?
You don't. There's other training providers out there. There's other ways and means of proving competence.
All of the ones that said, yes, legally in the UK, you need an IPAF to operate a MUP or something, they were all training providers. And then all the other ones weren't training providers, and they all said, no, legally you don't. So it's it's so difficult to figure out exactly what you need.
The thing is, with regards to chemicals, if it has on the label professional use only, then by law, HSE dictate you have to have information, instruction, and training to legally use that chemical. Now, competence-wise, with regards to cherry pickers, scaffolding, etc., your insurers would expect it, because it demonstrates competence.
So I had training from a hire company.
Yeah.
So I went there the day before and said, can you give me like a good rundown on the do's and don'ts and show me exactly how to use everything? Would you say that suffice? That would
no,
because it's not written training. It's not documented.
That's not what you would class as training. That's familiarization.
Right. Okay.
So, for example, I can go and do IPAF or PASMA tickets, and I'll only use one particular machine or one particular type of scaffold. So unless I'm doing, like, I've got a crawler ticket, there's 3 different types of cherry picker ticket. You've got your standard one, you've got your tractor machine, and you've got your truck mounting machine. So if you've got the standard one, you might have a very simple machine that you use for the day you do your training and your test. And then when it comes to going out on site, you could be faced with a much more complex machine where you would want familiarization training, but you also really should have the proper qualification to prove the competence.
Okay.
And if you look into the small print of your insurance, they will expect that as well, and they won't cover you if you have an accident. Now,
so just saying that I'm insured to work at 15 meters at height, that's not enough.
No, if you drill down into the small print, and people should, I know it can be a bit confusing. People often go, when it comes to insurance, they go for the cheapest quote. and that doesn't give them adequate cover.
Who
So
are you with?
I changed 2 years ago, Jack Bowley, Howdens.
Yeah,
I
same.
mean, they cut my policy in half cost wise. It went up 300 quid last year because my turnover jumped a lot. But a good insurer or a good insurance broker will drill down and ask you a lot of questions about what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Want to know what height you're working at, what chemicals you're using, are you using heat, are you using cutting disc, grinding, all these different types of things. Again, it's all about risk. It's about balancing risk. It's like the bookies. What's the chances you have an accident? 10,000 to 1, and how many days a week do you do that type of work? How many hours a year? What part of your turnover? And they look at how much risk is involved, and then they weigh that and put the premium against it.
The thing that I didn't understand was those tanks. Why did they ask you whether you carry a water tank or not?
Because it's got to be properly bolted and fitted, because the potential for damage is phenomenal. If you've got an IBC with even like 500 liters of water in it behind the bulkhead, if you have a crash at 20 mile an hour, you're going to be squashed like a fly on the inside of that windscreen. So it needs to be. I've just had one fitted. I just spent £3,500 on a frame and a tank.
I saw from Rutland
Pumps, but it's properly bolted through the chassis. So I know that if there is an accident, it may well come loose, but in doing so, it'll rip out a dozen bolts and take a lot of the energy out of it before it does come away. I mean, the best practice is don't carry water anyway. If I'm carrying water, it's only for a short distance. If I've got to fill up a hydrant to do a job, it'll be as short as possible. The more for use on site as a buffer, rather than you can't really get a big enough tank to go and do a day's work, for example, unless you use tiny amounts of water.
I don't drive around with any more than about a quarter of a tank. I've got a 250 litre tank. If it's any more than a quarter full, I don't see the point. I'm just carrying extra weight and using extra fuel. It's only there as a buffer, like you say. Okay, so for those people that are sort of just starting out and they haven't got a chance to look at the SDSs in detail just yet, what can they expect? So you need a proper ABEC 1 P3 mask.
Eye protection.
So is there anything you'd recommend?
It's down to the individual choice, individual wearer. We had it on the last course whereby a guy wanted to pick up some chemicals on his way home, and he was asking about the mask. We had one there for him to try. Because of the shape of his nose, it just didn't fit him at all. People like yourself with a beard, you're going to need to be looking at like a powered respirator. So essentially, it's a full face visor with a pipe that pipes air into it. So it's got a positive pressure, the air leaks outwards. But it's really, when it comes to eye protection and respiratory protection, is down to personal preference. But the JSP mask is the most popular. I prefer a face shield for chemicals.
I think Steve Heaton in the Discord, he went from one of those face masks and then goggles. He went from that to the full shield with a respirator on it, and he said it's absolutely brilliant. It's so much more comfortable and probably a lot safer as well.
They really are. They're about £1,000, depending on which, between 9 and 1,100 quid, depending on which one you go for. But they're priceless. I saw a job recently in the city centre. The guy was PP'd head to toe. He had the hard hat with the powered respirator, high vis, gloves, the whole shebang. Everything was spot on for cutting this stone. But the guy stood next to him with the watering can to keep the dust down, wasn't wearing anything. It's like that.
And that's the other thing, when you've got employees as well, that's a whole different level of like ensuring their safety.
Well, that's it, because I mean, it's not just legally, it's ethically and morally. I'd be mortified if my guy went home with an injury at the end of the day. Again, you can take a horse to water. You've got to provide. One of my previous insurers expected me to get my staff to sign that they'd received gloves, etc., just to cover their arse that they'd received the PPE required for the job. But I always make sure that the spares there. So when he's pressure washing and wearing eye protection, there's always 2 or 3 brand new pairs of specs under the seat in the van. So that if they get scratched, and the thing is that I'm never shy. It's like, do you want some more? I'll just get them and just buy them. I mean, I don't wait to be asked that these are scratched, boss. And there's some new ones. They're treated as consumables. They're factored into the price. Okay,
so a good respirator, and a proper one should last you a while, and occasionally you'll have to replace the filters. Good eye protection, You mentioned the suits.
Tyvek.
Yeah. Is there anything else? I mean, with regards to boots, is boots particularly important, or just whatever's comfortable?
They'll typically say chemical resistant boots. So you're talking about wellies. Some it varies from chemical to chemical depending on what you're using, but a lot of the stuff that we're using on a day-to-day basis, it's corrosive. It's your acids, it's your oxidizers, it's your hypo. Biocide isn't so bad splashing on the skin as long as it's the water-based back, but it shouldn't be splashing on your skin. If it has, there's something wrong.
Long sleeves,
but also depending on what it is, it could be chemical resistant suit.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got to pull your gloves over. Gauntlets are always better than one end of the spectrum. Is you get little examination gloves, little powdered latex skinny gloves that rupture easily and you've got no mechanical strength, right up to a big PVC gauntlet. So somewhere in between there is something that's going to suit. But
so we use the black nitrile gloves from Travis Perkins. Have you got like a go-to set of gloves, or do you use different ones for different jobs?
No, I've got big blue gauntlets, and they just slip on, slip off. That's one thing as well, is that if you get something in your eye or you need to do something, if you can flick the glove off or pull it off easily, get your fingers out to do stuff. It helps.
Yeah, that's a good idea. And they're not really consumable, are they? You just wash them and use them again.
Yeah, again, but as soon as you start to show a little bit of wear and tear, just bin them.
Yeah. Okay.
Not expensive.
Gloves, mask, respirator, boots,
chemical suit, wellies.
Anything else that you can think of?
First aid and eye wash. First aid kit, eye wash. Okay. One thing people need to understand is that they've got a legal duty of care to secure the chemicals from the second that they take delivery of them to the second they legally dispose of them empty containers. So if ever you leave your van open and a kid jumps in, grabs that chemical, throws it over his mate, you're going to jail.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you've really got to keep your stuff secure from the minute you get it. So where you store it, you've got to have your eye wash first aid kit, your normal first aid kit, your cost sheets and your MSDS sheets. When they're in transit, you have to have the same. When you're on site, you have to have the same. And one key thing to remember as well is that these sheets that you have to have in your van, if you keep them in like a paper file on your dashboard, if there's an accident, the emergency services need them instantly. We've had quite a few guys from fire and rescue come through the training, and their opinion is consistent. If you're in a crash and there's a chemical spillage, if they don't know what's in it, nobody leaves site, nobody goes to hospital until they determine what it is, because they're not going to contaminate an ambulance, they're not going to put their own staff at risk, and they're not going to contaminate a hospital. So they need to know what's been spilt before you even get away from the scene.
So are you saying it's best to keep those documents in a folder in the cab?
Yes.
Okay.
So it's easily to hand and mark on it in big letters what it is. Don't carry sheets for what you're not carrying chemical-wise. Just have the sheets there for what you're using and what's in the van at that time.
And when it comes to home storage, what's your method? Have you got like a shed, like a lockup or something?
I've got a couple of containers that I keep my stuff in. If you are going to keep stuff at home, you've got to keep it out of reach of someone that doesn't know what it is. So you can't let kids near it. Really, it's got to be locked away.
And while we're talking about storage, how, if you can be specific about certain chemicals, that'd be great. How important is it to keep the temperature sort of level? Like I'm talking when there's a frost and it goes down to minus temps versus when it's when the sun's out and it's really, really hot. Does that have certain effects on certain chemicals?
Yeah.
Like lifespan and stuff?
Yeah. So specifically anything water-based won't like getting frozen. So your biocide, if back 50, for example, freezes, it's for the bin.
Right.
Your normal hypo is salt solution that won't freeze. But typically we don't get long cold spells that could cause you grief. So what I tend to do is wrap everything up in a blanket, throw a blanket over it, and then if you get a frost overnight, it's not cold enough long enough to chill it down, especially like a 25-litre can. It's going to take several days at minus 10 in order to start to freeze.
Yeah.
So an oil-filled radiator is a good thing to have. Put the oil-filled radiator in the middle, put all the bigger drums around it, put a blanket and a tarpaulin over the top, set it to 10 degrees if it looks like it's going to get cold. Hypo doesn't like high temperatures. It breaks it down, loses its strength. Same applies to sunlight. So never store hypo in see-through barrels.
Yeah, that's why it arrives in black barrels.
Yeah, to keep there is a guy out there who's selling hypo in clear barrels, but he's also illegally selling it, like so many. But the thing is, we're seeing more and more enforcement action. We're seeing more and more, even no names. One of the bigger hypo distributors has stopped selling it now to people that are using it for cleaning. So you can't just rock up and buy it without good cause. So the thing is as well that insurance companies are getting wise to it. So when you go along and you buy your dairy hypo, if the company selling it to you isn't satisfied that you're a farmer with a milking parlour, then they believe they understand that they may be breaking the law by selling it to you.
Right. Okay.
So the insurance companies are issuing more and more guidance to the chemical distributors on what they can and can't do. So there's all sorts of new laws. There's the Chemical Weapons Act, the Chemical Precursors Act, the Sale of Acids Offensive Weapons Act, which puts a lot more onus on people on what they need to do with regards to checks and that with where the chemical's going. So Challenge 25 is quite common now. With Pure Seal, they a few years ago now became trade only, so Joe Public cannot buy it.
Yeah, you need to upload your ID, don't you, before you can buy anything?
You need to upload ID for legal reasons, but also you need to provide proof that you're in the industry. They will not sell to Joe Public. One good thing there is that Joe Public can't find out how much things cost. There's nothing worse than a client saying, hold on, you just charged 600 quid for that job, and I know that chemical cost 80 quid. Well, you don't. I mean, it's irrelevant, because the thing is that they need more than just the cost of materials to work out the cost of doing the job.
Yeah.
And it's very rare you get people like that, thankfully, but they don't see the insurance. They don't see, like, I've got zero. They don't see the fee for zero. They don't see my HS Direct, 650 quid a year. The hydrant fee. They don't see all the costs associated with the accountancy fees on a quarterly, monthly, and annual basis. They don't often see all the costs involved in running a business. They think that every penny you get goes in your back pocket. So I've no time for people like that, but thankfully they're very rare.
Yeah. Okay, so is there any sort of anything else with extreme temperatures? Acids?
No, not really. Acids are pretty good, but we don't really get extremes of temperature in our climate.
Yeah.
You've got to watch when you're using them. Your climatic conditions when you're using them can be critical. So a lot of chemicals won't work well below 5 degrees.
I found that recently when I was using hypo over the winter.
Yeah.
It's so there's such a difference in efficacy when you're using hypo when it's cold.
Very much so, yeah. And that's why you've got to have your surfactant to stop it evaporating, because although water doesn't readily evaporate below 5 degrees, hypo does.
Yeah.
One thing as well is that in winter, I use the nuclear fallout, which is boosted. It has sodium hydroxide, which is caustic soda in it. So it does actually work at lower temperatures.
I didn't know that. So the Nuclear Pro, I thought the only differences there were that the Nuclear Pro was like 10 to 13%, and the Nuclear Fallout was 14 to 15%.
Nuclear Pro is 10. Fallout is your full strength, 13, 14%. But it also has, see that the basic one also has your surfactants and your scent mask, but the stronger one also has sodium hydroxide, which in itself boosts the performance. As a standalone chemical, it's a very good cleaner. But when you combine them all together, the sum is greater than the parts. So you can also water it down more. So your nuclear fallout, you can use a much higher ratio and at lower temperatures
and get the
same result.
I didn't know that. That's very good information.
So the thing is that people don't understand just how much work Chris and the chemists do with regards to formulating these products. There's so many variations and things that have been tried and tested over the years, and new products coming on the market. There's an immense amount of work goes into developing these products. So by the time it hits the shelf, by the time you've paid the health and safety there cut, your shop insurance, your storage, etc., I don't get why anyone bitches about the price, because the price is factored into the cost of the job anyway. If you think you're going to save 10, 20 quid on a job by using a product that's not legal or potentially inferior, crack on. But that's not where business like life should be an ever upward spiral. You should always be striving to get better in everything that we do. And that includes your business and your work. And by using the best of kit, by getting the best of training and going out on site, you're charging more money, you're getting better results, you're getting better customers, you're getting more referrals.
I agree with you. I think the main issue for people that are starting out, which generally is the majority of my audience, is people who are looking to start or they're just starting out, is the barrier to entry. And I started out super cheap, and I've always been so tight with everything, with the equipment, with the chemicals, with the van, all that sort of stuff, and all the stuff you've mentioned, like £1,000 for that respirator, buying more expensive chemicals because they're label compliant and all that sort of stuff. As a new business, it's having the correct insurance. You could even go as far as to say that the right PPE. As a new business, I think if you were to try and do everything properly, the barrier to entry would be pretty astronomical. I started for about 400 quid, just on the side of my regular job. I don't think really, if you're to do everything by the book, that you could do that. But I suppose then you just don't start the business. Or what would you recommend for someone? I suppose that's too broad of a question. Do you understand what I'm trying to say?
I was in the same boat myself. Again, a lot of what drives people there is fear. It's the fear of not getting to where they want to be. It's that I know financial startup costs, it doesn't need to be astronomical. Okay, you've got your basic cost of your pressure washer, your van, whatever, and you can cut and scrimp there a little bit, but not too much. But the costs for being label compliant, the costs for training, like I say, you can go do the buyer-side training for 150 quid. If you can't afford that, you're in the wrong game. The cost of label compliant products per square meter might add a couple of quid on a job, again, but that conveys to the client a professionalism.
Yeah.
And having that also gives you confidence, and that's what a lot of people don't have at the start, is confidence. There's a big fear factor, and I've been there, I've done that. Is that you're going and price a job cheap because you're scared you're not going to get it.
Yeah.
You're scared that you go in and you see a big job and you think, oh well, I can, especially on the bigger jobs, this is a fatal mistake so many people make. They've got a set rate that they're comfortable with when it comes to doing a driveway, maybe £3.50 a square meter or something, and they're comfortable with that and they're making money at that, and then they get a big car park to price, and they go in and think, I really want this, it'll be great for my socials, I really want this, it'll be a big payday, a big ticket, I really want this to get in with this client. And all of a sudden in their head they go, well, I normally charge £3.50, but it's a bigger job. What about £2.50? I'll go in at £2.50 a square meter. And all of a sudden, the 50 pence profit they were making on the first job has become a 50 pence loss on the bigger job.
So you're not reducing your prices at all for commercial work?
I charge more for commercial.
Because of the potential for stuff to go wrong?
There's a greater demand from the client with regards the health and safety paperwork, what's required from them. No, my day rates for commercial is 50% more than it is on domestic. And the thing with commercial, people tend to forget is that it's not their money they're spending. I fire out a quote for 10 grand to somebody in a commercial environment. They'll look at it and they won't think, that's expensive. They'll go, that's in the budget. Okay.
They've got pots of money set aside for maintenance.
Yes. Yeah. Or it depends, but never look at commercial work and try and get it cheap. And the same goes for, and it's an old one that's in every industry, I've got more properties, do this one cheap and I'll get you more work.
I hate that, because it never
that statement alone is enough to walk away.
Yeah.
I wouldn't even need to see the job about. You're a chancer, you're a fly by night, you're a spiv. I don't deal with spivs.
A spiv? I've never heard that one.
You never read spiv?
No.
Look it up. It's a good one. People like that with that kind of attitude, they don't respect you.
Yeah.
They don't respect you and your business. They want to screw you down for money. It's like that. Can you knock 10% off? Why? Well, because I want it 10% cheaper. Why? Well, just to save some money. Okay, but that's going to be like all of my profit. It's not worth having conversations with these people.
Yeah,
they're not your client.
If you do this one cheap, or if you do a good job, I've got
Yeah,
10 other properties that you can do. It's like, no, I've
yeah,
heard that one so many times and it
exactly. Yeah,
never comes through.
we'll do this one full price, and if you like the work, then maybe when you give me the other 9 all at once, we can look at a
Yeah,
discount.
that's a good way of doing it.
But no,
Um,
never discount to start.
how you doing for time?
Um, give you 10 minutes.
Okay. When it comes to equipment, application equipment, actually, let's do safety equipment first. What's the sort of stuff that you'd carry around in the van? Things like signs, things like stickers on your van. Have you got anything that you would recommend as a baseline?
Traffic cones.
Hmm.
Yeah, warning signs. It depends upon the environment. If you're working in a car park, for example, then you've got to be looking at big full-size traffic cones, barriers. That's one thing with regards to risk assessments and method statements. One of the best moves you can make is to exclude people. It's all about exclusion. You don't want Joe Public, you don't want other contractors, you don't want staff in the work area. Excluding people from your work area is crucial. So you can take that from barrier tape, terrace fencing, site hardened, depending on the level of risk. You've got to put in control measures, that word control measures, proportionate to the risk that's involved. So depending on what you're using and what you're doing, you need to up your game a bit.
The one thing that's always been on my mind when you're pulling up to a property next to the curb, you've got a path going between your van and the house. So you've got a walkway that people are going to go up and down. What would you say would be the minimum requirements to make sure that is safe for people to walk past?
But one thing I try and get across to people is you've got to assume that somebody walking by is going to be deaf, they're going to be blind, they're going to be stupid, potentially disabled. If you're putting signs out, English may not be their first language. So the thing is, again, it's measuring what's proportional. I've done jobs in city centres where I've actually taken the hose up over the road and down again. So there is no trip hazard.
Yeah.
You can put out warning signs. You can use like a hose ramp, etc. One of the most basic things is using high-vis hoses. So my supply hoses are bright yellow.
I think AC pressure washers just started supplying bright yellow
Yeah,
high pressure hoses.
yeah. And there's little things like that. And the key thing is documenting it. So in your risk assessment and method statement, you're putting in there high-vis hoses.
Or
Okay,
taking photos as well of the work area before you
you
start,
have
maybe.
to. That's every time we set up at a hydrant or in a public area. The first thing you do is put your cones out, then you open the hole in the ground. You don't do it the other way around. Once we're set up, we take a picture of it. Then then you don't have the situation later on where someone comes along, removes your cones and pretends they've fallen down your hole. Because if they can put a claim in, they will. And
Yeah.
some of the shopping centres I work at in the dodgy areas. So you document it. That's the key thing is you've got to make a note of your findings and document it. Documenting it can be taking that video, taking that picture, make sure you've got your location switched on.
Mhm.
Otherwise, it might not be admissible as evidence. But you've got to document. Again, this same goes with the job. You get some people who have got bad intentions. So they get you out. Anyone in the window cleaning game will know about scratches. Okay. So they get you out, you do the job, and all of a sudden, oh, hold on a minute, that wasn't there before you came. Right. So they want to set you up as a fall guy, and they think there's nothing wrong with trying to claim your insurance to get something for nothing.
Yeah.
So every job, photograph it, film it, make a note.
That's always a worry on my mind is if they can, they might. And so it's like
But you can discourage that from the start. You can weed them out because they'll go into someone who's more of a touch. Like you'll remember from the training, we've got the pads. So you've got your little notepad there. You pull up, you make a note of the sizes, the type of stone, what needs done, etc., etc. And then you've got defects. You've got a whole section there for defects where you make a note of the defects, and they sign it. You back it up with an email. You film it. You photograph it. And if anybody's out with bad intentions, and you've gone through all them steps, they won't even accept your quote because they know it's not going to work.
Yeah, and I take pictures of everything because sometimes you'll be cleaning something and you're like, oh, was that there before? I actually don't know. And so it's always good to look back at the photos just to check you haven't caused that damage, especially when you've got employees as well. Have you got a couple of minutes for other people's questions? I don't know if
Yeah, fire away.
Matt, if you're in the chat, mate, I think Matt's been compiling people's questions, and hopefully he can send that to me somehow, and I can read them off because we've been ignoring chat this whole time. I hope everyone's enjoying this. Where have you put it, Matt? So just to say that was probably one of the most eye-opening, important parts of the courses for me. So that module 1 course, initially identifying the surface, was probably, I think, what set me on this trajectory of trying to help other people. We've got in the Discord, we've got a section saying identify this, because that is the baseline. Understanding what you're working on and what chemicals are safe and which type of sealers to choose, like that was probably the most valuable part of the course for me, is figuring out how to identify certain surfaces.
It shows a level of competence when you pull up at the job for the first time. If you turn around and say to the client, what kind of stone is that? You don't stick your wicket to start with.
Yeah.
You can turn up and say, oh yeah, that's honed sandstone or that's limestone. And often you can ask the client what they've got, but they won't know, or they might be mistaken. But if you can turn up, confidently identify it, you can then go away and work out what you need to do.
Yeah.
You know, that's things you can identify the stone. You've got, for Pure Seal, you've got the website has been redone with surfaces and contaminant sections. You've got the new app, which is free. Download the free app. And you put in there what the surface is, what the contamination is.
What does the app do?
Essentially, it recommends what product you need and exactly how much of it you need. Okay. So you put in what the surface is, you put in what the stain is, and it tells you what chemical you need.
That's the Pure Seal app.
Yeah.
Okay. What's Mike's opinion on the XJet and similar devices?
They have the place. They're very attractive to people new in the industry because they're relatively cheap. They're a bit of a blunt instrument in that they're very difficult to control. Ben Marriott makes one called the Pro Foamer, which is a bit more control than the XJet. But the problem is that anything that creates small droplets is prone to wind drift, which puts it where you don't want it to be. So I prefer dosatrons. I've got 2, one for biocide, one for hypo. And that way I can vary the flow rate as much or as little as I want. I can go from 5 liters a minute, which is what you get from a gardener backpack, up to 30 liters a minute if I put a pump in there. So yeah, they are attractive because they're cheap. Don't get me wrong, I've used them from a cherry picker on an industrial roof, but there was 0 wind and 0 people around. But they're a bit of a blunt tool. It's easy to miss bits with them as well. It's easy to batter it about, but you're not getting a consistent finish. You use far too much chemical.
Yeah.
But the biggest one for me is the wind drift.
Yeah, especially on a roof.
Bonkers idea on a roof.
And also the commercial, the dilution ratios are so unpredictable because it very much depends on the flow rate of your machine.
I know, and that's the thing, is that people buy an XJet rated for their machine, let's say 15 or 21 liters per minute, but then when they come to use it, they'll slow it right down.
Yeah.
So you're not actually getting that flow rate.
Yeah, you have no idea what it's coming through as.
No, and with something like hypo, sometimes it's enough to go over it again, or you can change the nozzle, but it varies from job to job. Even the temperature of your hypo, if that varies, it'll come through at a different rate.
Yeah.
But yeah, they do have the place. But one thing that is much overlooked and underrated is a watering can.
Mm.
You get great control with a watering can.
With the correct nozzle on the end.
It needs to be the rose, yeah. Not a metal one. A lot of them come with metal ones. Nothing metal. Hypo and metal doesn't go with it. Aluminium, brass, doesn't matter. A watering can with a plastic rose in the front, you got total control over it. Okay. That and a little bit of a brush to distribute it. Cheapest way to get into it.
How long do P3 filters last? Do they have an hour limit, like 50 hours or 100 hours?
You are meant to keep them in an airtight box. Now, they typically come in a little Ziploc bag, which keeps them airtight. So when they're not in use, you're meant to zip them up. Now, there is no prescribed limit on when they should be replaced. One distributor manufacturer turned around not long ago and said that when you can smell the chemical, it's time to change them. That to me sounds scary, because
probably a bit late at that point.
probably a bit late. If you're using something like hydrofluoric acid and you can smell it, it's too late.
Yeah.
So no, I don't technically know how many hours life you get from them, but I do know that they have to be zipped up airtight when they're not in use.
How do you dispose of your chemical containers? Do different chemicals have different rules, and do you cost that into your pricing?
Now, many folk give them a wash and sell them on eBay for £1 or £2 each. Some folk cut them up and put them in the wheelie bin. If you want to be legally compliant, they have to be disposed of as controlled waste. So you have to take them to an approved waste disposal station to get shut of them. Some councils, yeah, you have to pay for that. And there's different fees. There's like a documentation fee and per barrel fee, etc. One of the simplest ways is to buy in bulk. So, for example, if you are using a lot of bleach, you can buy like a 200-litre barrel and then decant it into your 25-litre drums, take your 200-litre barrel back to your supplier and they can fill it up. And that way you never need to dispose of anything. So long as one of the key things here is the labels. You've got to make sure it's properly labeled, the label's in good condition, it's not damaged, and all the information on it is readable. But technically speaking, legally, you've got to dispose of it.
So one of the big questions I had is runoff, the importance of controlling runoff, specifically biocide in roofs, chemically treating roofs.
Yeah.
Was it you that posted the video about applying biocide to a roof with minimal runoff?
Yeah.
How'd you do that?
Primarily by controlling the volume you're putting on. So this is where NextJet's absolutely useless because it just runs off and runs down. But for me, I apply bottom upwards rather than top down. It's the sag and shear effect of a liquid on a vertical surface.
The what?
Sag and shear. So if you get any kind of trigger spray or spray water on a wall top down and you'll see rivulets form. It'll form into little rivulets and it'll run down in those areas quite fast, which doesn't give it the dwell time and it pulls the liquid off the surface. If you apply it from the bottom upwards, then it slows the flow down. It moves in a sheet, which gives it more time to absorb, and also it's evaporating while it's on. So by the time I get halfway up the roof, the bottom part could be drying or dry, and I'm just gently, slowly moving side to side, going up 1 or 2 tiles at a time as I apply the biocide, and it minimizes the runoff, minimizes the amount of chemical that you use, and it gives you a long enough time on the surface for it to soak in.
So you're not putting it on as quickly as possible with as much flow as possible. You're putting it on a slightly lower flow and just agitating it side to side and going from the bottom up.
You don't need to agitate if you're putting biocide on. Agitation is more for things like detergents, or if you've got hypo on paving, you might want to agitate it, like scrub it. If you're applying a biocide, it doesn't need agitation normally. All you want is penetration. So that comes about from the amount of time it's on the surface, the dwell time. If it's too hot, that's when I'd give it a rinse with some cold water first to chill the surface back a bit.
Okay. And what about controlling runoff into gutters? What do we do in that situation?
If you've got plastic, then you disconnect them. Use a temporary downpipe, little plastic Amazon. You get them. I think you could just look on Amazon for temporary downpipe. You simply unplug it, cable tie these on, and divert it either into a bucket or into soil. That's one thing that people get a bit hung up about, is that if you divert or if your runoff from biocide or hypo goes into soil, it's safe. Okay. Now, if you've pressure washed a patio and the water's gone into the soil or the flower bed, whatever's around the side, you pre-wet it. Okay, so the water that goes in, this really only matters in the middle of summer when plants are thirsty. They'll drink up whatever gets to them first. So if you soak the area first and soak the plants, they'll suck up that water and then stop drinking. So after that, you minimize the amount. This is key, is that you minimize the amount of chemical runoff that you've got. What happens is soil is made up of things like sand, stone, and organic material. So all the leaves and twigs that fall on it break down. You take soil, you can break into its different component parts depending on where it is, what type it is. But the hypo or the bio hits the organic element in the soil, that breaks down and then stops working. So it doesn't actually poison anything else, the environment or the plants.
Wow, that's actually blown my mind. I didn't know that.
So just think about when you put hypo on algae, you put a little bit on and it's not quite done enough. You need to put more on. That's because it's been fighting with the organic material and it's broken down and all that's left is the salt in the water.
Yeah.
That's what happens when it hits soil.
Okay. So as long as it's not going directly into flower beds and stuff, you can divert it onto soil.
A little bit won't kill the plants.
Right. That's amazing. Okay.
One of the worst things is if it gets on the leaves, it can scorch them.
Yeah.
One of the easiest ways to kill a plant is to put a tarpaulin over it.
Oh,
So
really?
if you do, yeah. If you do need to protect plants, do it for the shortest amount of time, and they can withstand direct sunlight all day long. They love sunlight, but if you put a tarpaulin over it and they actually heat up, the temperature will kill them.
Ah. And I suppose if you're pre-wetting everything, you shouldn't have too much of an issue, I suppose.
Yeah.
There's a lad who does some work in the Discord, and he'd been capturing that biocide runoff from the downpipes in barrels and storing them in his container. And it's like
Use it on a patio. That's one thing. If you've captured it on a job, you can scrub it into the patio.
Yeah.
Or put it into soil. The holy grail for me is setting up on a gravel driveway.
Yeah.
Any chemical spillage, anything excess at the end when I flush my pipes through, it goes onto the gravel, goes down into the soil below it, naturally breaks down. It biologically degrades by hitting the organic material and breaking down into its component parts.
That is really good information. Thank you for that.
Pleasure.
Is there anything else you wanted to chat about before I let you get off?
No, I think we've pretty much covered it all. I've not got your list to hand, what we were doing, but anything else we can always cover another time.
Quick one. Is there a chemical you think should be fully banned and why from exterior cleaning?
To be honest, the HSE have done most of that already.
Okay.
Back in 2005, when they brought out the biocidal product regulation, they banned nearly every biocide on the market. And it's a constant review process. I get emails every day, just about every second day, about what they're banning or what they're considering banning, and you never know what moves they're going to make. They're talking about banning DDAC. They've already banned some versions of it on a rolling basis. That every single chemical is up for scrutiny like never before. The only thing I would warn people to keep away from, unless they're seriously experienced, properly kitted up and ready for it, is hydrofluoric acid. It's one of the nastiest chemicals in the market. So just beware.
More so than hydrochloric and phosphoric?
In a big way. It's
really?
Super nasty. Yeah. It hits your skin. It'll keep on going until it finds bone.
Oh, wow.
You can rinse it off. That's one thing with regards to the cost sheets. If it says on it, seek medical attention, do so. Okay, it's no good just rinsing your eyes saying that stings a bit, because the chemical could still be there. It could still be burning into your skin or your eye or whatever it is. If it says seek medical attention, do it.
Okay. That is really good information. Thank you. What do you want to let people know about any of your social media or anything you've got going on in the background?
No, I don't do much in the way of socials myself. I've got my own little cleaning company, New Tech Cleaning.
Yeah.
That's me. As I say, I do the training for Pure Seal. I've got other things in the fire there. But if anybody wants to take it seriously, if they want to get involved in things they've maybe never done before, don't have the confidence to do, they want to try something different, or just professionalize themselves. That's the key thing, that we set out with this training to try and professionalize the industry. We're doing what nobody else is doing on a level that's never been seen before. So for the sake of 2 days and 500 or 600 quid, you can take your business to another level and earn a shitload more money than you already are.
Yeah, I definitely recommend the courses. Since I've only been on the module 1, but from what I learned on there, it's absolutely invaluable as a baseline understanding for stuff.
And again, biocide training, 150 quid. It'll give you a little qualification there. It'll also allow you to become a professional user. It'll give you a level of knowledge that has never been seen before for biocides in the industry.
Awesome.
Cool.
Mike, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Dave. Good to talk to you again. We'll do it again soon.
And you, mate. Yeah, cheers. I'll see you at the expo, probably.
Yes, see you then, mate.
Cheers, mate. Bye. How about that then, guys? That was good, wasn't it? What a way to start the week. Did people find that valuable? Because I did. There's a lot that I learned on that. That if you divert runoff when treating a roof, then finish, then reconnect the downpipes. If it then rains, will the bio reactivate? Oh, that was a good question. Sorry, we missed that one. Sorry, mate. Really helpful. Going to listen to this properly tomorrow. Thanks for that. Very informative. Thanks, Mike. Legend. Cheers, Mike. Big thanks to Mike. Learned a lot. Man's using Bing. I don't use Bing, right? But what was happening? This is Microsoft Edge. And what was happening? Every time I went from the meeting to another tab, it was crashing the meeting. It was like resetting the meeting. So I had to change my browser to look at other tabs. I don't normally use. Not that there's anything wrong with using a certain browser. That's such a weird thing to say, but yeah. Very interesting. Thanks, Tony. Does the biocide course cover you for using hypo? I mean, the fact that hypo is a type of biocide, I would assume it probably does. Probably. Bing should be illegal. This is gold for someone starting out. So that was what I was trying to do by getting Mike on, is to have something for people to reference. So if someone's just starting out and they want to get like a baseline understanding of what you should be doing safety wise when you enter the exterior cleaning industry, I want people to be able to link this live stream. So I think for a couple of hours, for an hour and 45 minutes, I think there's so much valuable information just landed there from that short conversation, and that's going to be on YouTube hopefully forever, and people can just reference that going forward. Very, very valuable. Learned a lot. Thanks, Mike. Need to link. I need link. So sort my membership out. You wanna grab a membership for the Discord? Let me see if I can get that for you. The link for that. By the way, guys, I've just hit 50,000 subscribers yesterday. How cool is that? 50,000 subscribers on YouTube. Who'd have thought it? Who on earth would have thought little old me would have 50,000 people interested in their content? I think it might be best to carry the cost sheets and RAMs going forward. Yeah, and there's a link for the memberships, by the way. I've just posted that in the chat. The Pure Seal applicator courses, they give you all that stuff, all the templates and stuff to come away with. So you get like multiple pages and pages of templates for you to use on jobs, and also you get the Bible, the training manual, how to identify surfaces, how to knowing which chemicals to use, which PPE to wear, which sealers to use, which temperatures, everything's in there, ground surfaces wise, and you just get to come away with it. I think the value for money there is brilliant on those courses. This isn't sponsored in any way, it's just my opinion. Still not working, mate. I don't know what to tell you, Sean. I honestly don't know what to tell you. Interesting stuff, lot to take in there. Yeah, definitely. I'm working on some RAMs and cost sheet templates. Yeah, Matt's he's got something in the works, let's say. Not my place to talk on it, but he's definitely got something in the works. Can you buy that booklet without the course? I don't think so, no. It's the course, and then the booklet is basically everything you learn in the course in more detail as a reference for later on. Any idea on the price for a canopy clean, Jake? Total 30 meters squared each. There's 2 of them. They want a price for the exterior and interior. Popped a picture in the quotes section of the Discord. Does £4 per square meter seem right? It depends what the access is like, I suppose. Canopy cleans. I've only done a couple of canopy cleans. I get really good results with hypo, actually, with on the old canopies. Let's have a look, shall we? This one. That would be fairly straightforward, I'd imagine. You could probably get that from the ground, water-fed pole, scrub it with hypo. I don't know what those litching spots are going to be like to come off, but you could apply a bit of pressure with a power pole or something. I would charge, rather than doing like a square meter cost, because it's going to be difficult to figure out, because there's a pitch on that as well, so it'd be too complicated to try and figure out the exact square meterage. I would just price it per canopy. 150 quid per canopy, maybe, if that's the same size as the other one. Oh, you've got to do the inside as well. Shame you can't really do a test patch beforehand, isn't it? I think a base price at 150 quid per canopy. The inside of these is a nightmare, because you're washing and scrubbing upwards and you're getting yourself covered, and so the last thing you want to be doing is covering yourself in whatever chemical you're putting up there. Little plug, I suppose. Pure Seal do a product called Canopy Clean for this exact use case. Honestly, I've had really good success with hypo in the past, just 1 to 5, plenty of surfactant, although I don't know if hypo is compatible with all types of materials on these canopies, because you might find that you get one that bleaches, and I have no way of knowing, so you want to look out for that sort of stuff, I would say. Well done on the 50k, thanks LC. We'll definitely be purchasing one of those Force 8 masks. That's the one. They tried the old hose and brush on it. Yeah, I can see. Yeah, nice stiff brush and a bit of hypo on that. I reckon it'll come up quite nice. Also, watch the chemicals on the metalwork. Some rust metal quickly. Yeah, you'll probably find that'll be like galvanized steel or something, but yeah, careful of hypo and metal as always. I think I'm going to leave it there, guys. I've not really got much else to talk about. I mean, there are some bits that I was going to bring up. A couple of videos to watch and stuff, but I think we can do that next week now. Started up in the last few months, struggling to get leads regularly. Any advice? It's hard to know without knowing what you're doing with regards to marketing and stuff. I would say the first couple of months, I mean the first 12 months are extremely difficult, because you've not got recommendations, you've not got reviews, you've not got referrals, you've not got a lot of content on your social media channels. Consistency. Pick a few different marketing strategies that are accessible to you and that you think you might be quite good at, and just be consistent with them and push them to the next level. Don't just dip your toes here and there with leaflets and then Google ads and then Facebook ads and then door knocking and then social media stuff. Don't just dip your toe. I would say go all in on a couple of different types of advertising. Yeah, get your van sign written as well. Yeah, I've done flyering and I've got an active Facebook page and posting work pictures, etc. I mean, if you really wanted to, door knocking, if you're getting little bit desperate and you want to get the work in, door knocking, from what I've heard, absolutely works. Rather than just posting your leaflet through the door, just knock on and just say, I'm in the area doing a bit of work down the road. I offer gutter clearing, driveway cleaning, all that sort of stuff. Is there anything that you need doing while I'm here? Have you upped your price on the grind, clean and repoint now? I'm thinking of going up as high as £25 per square metre. Having a nightmare on this job. Really? Are you finding it more work than you expected? I mean, so for reference, Craig's and Steve are cleaning and repointed about 200. Was it 250 square metres or was it 400 square metres? I can't remember. £15 per square metre has killed me off on this job. planned 4 days. Today was 6 to 8 AM and 7 PM finishing each night. S9T, the Discord is only accessible to people who have become a paid member of the YouTube channel, Circle members and above. So you should see a join button under the video somewhere. I always work to the safest I can do visual risk assessments. I think I struggle with the paperwork because I've never done one before. Yeah, I mean, a template, you can find templates online. I'm sure you could even get ChatGPT or something similar to knock you up a template. I think now that I'm using Titan, Craig, I'm probably more like around about £20 per square metre for the repointing, which includes grinding, cleaning, chemically treating, the cost of materials, the cost of grinding discs, all that sort of stuff, all in. Much going on a Skype call at the moment. Are you talking to me, Darren? I'm not sure what you mean. I'm going to head off shortly because I think we're going to do ours next week, aren't we? Monday 24th, just before the expo. I think we're due to catch up. I have the game changer in hand. I think a template is a good idea for a risk assessment. Yeah, no worries, mate. Right, guys, I'm going to shoot off. It's been, what a great episode. I feel like I've learnt a lot, and I hope you guys have too. Be cool to do that sort of thing more regularly, to be honest. We need to get more guests on, because the guests are where it's at, I think, with these live streams. Yeah, stick it in the Discord. Let's have a look. Right, guys, thanks for watching. Have a wonderful week. I hope it all goes well for you all. See you next week. Bye. Now, these videos take a lot of time and effort to film and edit on top of trying to run a successful pressure washing business. If you find any of the information in my videos useful, then I'd like for you to consider becoming a paid member of the channel. Circle members and above will get access to my private Discord for members only, where you can pretty much get a hold of me 24 hours a day for inspiration, technical help, marketing advice, or just a general chat. I post pictures and videos that you won't see on any of my other socials. You'll be the first to hear about giveaways, special offers and announcements, and it's just generally a nice place full of like-minded people who are all heading towards similar goals. We've got various different experience levels. We've got a few professionals in the chat as well. If you want to push your business, in my opinion, this is the place to be. We also have two other membership tiers. One is just to show a bit of support for the channel, and the other one is for boosted members, which will not only give you access to the private Discord, but also loads of high quality promotional images for you to start your business. I know what it's like when you're ready to get going, but you don't have any before and after pictures to put on your leaflets. At the moment, there's about 150 images that you can use for pretty much whatever you like, and my intention is to constantly update these over the next few years with all of my before and afters that have helped promote my business. Last thing before I let you go, new videos come out every Monday night at 5:30, and then I go live at 7:30 to chat to you guys and answer as many questions as possible. We do live quotes for real customers and just generally keep up to date with everything going on in the pressure washing world. Thanks for watching, back to the video.